All right, welcome everybody back to the relaunch of the Flying with Big Ern podcast. And today I am super honored to have the CEO of SkyPath. If you don't know what that program is, we're going to talk about it today. It's an incredible software program that we use at the airlines, at our business aviation to predict clear air turbulence, which is a big problem in the aviation industry as far as injuries and all that. So happy to introduce Maya Shpak from SkyPath, the CEO. She's got an incredible story. We're going to dive deep into it today. So Maya, welcome to the podcast, the rebranded podcast, and starting up again. So glad you're with us.
Thank you, Ernie. My pleasure. I'm excited about it. It's an honor. Thank you.
Well, no, we're appreciative of you coming on, and we're totally. I am just fascinated with the software that you guys have, the SkyPath app. I knew when we were first introduced to it, I was just like a kid going through it. So, love to dig in more into that. But first, I'd like to go into a little bit of your background and like kind of your progression through aviation and into this role right now.
Of course. So I've been with aviation for probably almost 20 years. I've started my path as actually an Air Force pilot. I've heard that you also flew for the Air Force.
I did, yeah.
So we're
We're
mates in that
brother sister like
sense.
that,
Of course.
huh?
So started my path as an Air Force pilot, retired. I'm still flying in reserves, flying helicopters, my first love.
Oh, nice.
Um, I've been working for commercial aviation projects, high-end innovative projects in this arena for many years. I've joined SkyPass in the early beginnings almost 6 years ago. I've been managing the company for the last 5 years. And I think that in that sense, I have the privilege to take my passion to aviation and whatever we're doing with SkyPass, combine them together and enjoy every day of it.
That's great. Where did the motivation come from to fly? Did you always have that back as a child?
Actually, it was accidental, most of, I don't know if you can hear by the accent, but I wasn't born and raised in the US.
Mhm.
I was raised in Israel, and in Israel, everybody goes to the military, whether it's the army, the air force, and most of my friends in high school were um, were going to to try and test for the flight academy. It sounds exciting and challenging, and I was thinking to myself whether I can try it or not. So basically, I just applied, and here we are, a few years
Wow.
later.
So
Step by step, probably.
yeah, let's dig deeper into that because me, I know my journey as an Air Force pilot. I went to ROTC, so I went to university. We did ROTC there, and then that's how I got my commissioning source. But we also had to test into it. Is it, I'm always just super impressed because all the Israeli pilots that I've met are just I think on another level because I'm like, I would never have made it as a pilot in Israel because
I
your
don't
standards
think
are
so, Ernie.
so high. And I'm just curious, how did what was the process like? You need to go into the military. You want to test into being a pilot. How does that process look?
So basically, you're applying, or they summon you to test for the flight academy. There's a few tests and trainings. There's few steps on the roads. There's like infantry tests that you need to, at the end, everybody has to be qualified as a warrior in a certain level.
Mhm.
There's some training that you need to do, and then some qualifications and tests that you need to pass. And then step by step, you get into the point where you're being um, probably you've been tested for different aircraft, whether it's helicopters, fixed wing,
Oh wow.
navigation positions. They position you in a certain segment. In my case, it was helicopters.
Hmm.
Train you, you know, um, put you in the squadrons, and then step by step moving forward.
Moving
It's
forward
been a
from there.
while. It's been a while ago, but
So
it.
so you do
Yes,
testing, so all like written testing just to see if you have the aptitude, and then they progress you into flight training?
more or less. I think that
Mhm.
so you're flying for an airline, and I think that and you have many years of experience, and I think from the early beginning when you fly with a young pilot, you
Mhm.
always have the sense of feeling on his qualifications, his ability to fly the airplane, or his knowledge and his level of expertise. It's more or less the same process,
Mhm.
but I think that for the Air Force, and this we have in common, you want to be able to put someone as a pilot in a certain amount of time. You don't have all the time in the world.
Right.
Probably also in an airline, at the end, time is money. And
Mhm.
I think that this is the challenge in training combat pilots. You want to put them um, in a certain qualification within a certain amount of time. I think this is the challenge. So you have oral testing, flight testing, all of the above. But, you know, in parallel to that, you also train, you learn how to do things better, you debrief, you
Mhm.
try to overcome your mistakes, and probably not to repeat them going forward. And I think that this is the trick. If you are able to recognize your weak points, to recognize um, what is the cause for that and how can you improve that. And I have
Mhm.
to say that this is also a guideline that we have in SkyPass. We always debrief also in SkyPass. I'm sure
Mhm.
that you're aware of that, but I'm not the only pilot in the company.
Mhm.
SkyPass is a product that was invented by pilots. It's being designed by pilots. It's being promoted by pilots. A lot of our company employees are flying in a, one way or the other.
Mhm.
So it's something that is more personal to all of us, and we embrace the Air Force culture
Mhm.
in terms of looking looking forward on things that we have done in the past, how we can
Mhm.
improve them, how can we provide a better product. This is something that goes together with the culture that we most of us observed in the Air Force.
Yeah.
Improve all the time.
Right. And how early did that start? At what age did the military training start?
So it started in the age of 18,
18.
but it's something that I think goes with you for many years.
Right.
I, I'm a bit older than 18, and in the
I can't tell.
just a bit. Uh, um, I've been flying for the Air Force for 20 something years, at
Wow.
least once or twice a month.
Mhm.
So it's part of my culture.
Yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to dig deep into kind of where the origin came from for the passion for aviation and how you got into it, because that really, as the CEO of SkyPath, I mean, your direction, you are the leader there, and all that training. I love the training that I received in the Air Force. I love even though I fought it hard, I love the discipline and all that other stuff that came with being a military pilot. I think having that a part of the DNA in your company is a big thing as well. It's training, it's experiences that you would not have normally received, and the military does a great job of putting you into stressful situations, situations that require leadership, quick acting, and I think that translates very well into running a company. So, speaking of SkyPath, can you go over the I know it was has a lot of aviation obviously tied into it, a lot of technology. Can you just go on the origin of SkyPath and how did this idea come to be?
Of course. And I have to say that I'm totally agree with you. There's a lot of the values and the cultures that I observed in the Air Force that we're trying to imply in the company culture. So definitely we're taking and we're appreciative for the things that we have learned in the Air Force.
Mm.
Um, I have to say that the idea was invented in the mind of a veteran Air Force pilot, of course,
Mm.
who was also it's very common in Israel here,
Yeah.
who was also flying for an airline.
Hmm.
And in a certain point in time, he was flying I think it was probably a 7.8 or 7.3. He was very much experienced. He was a line check airman, and he encountered turbulence. And this particular one surprised him because there wasn't any indication of any turbulence in his flight path, nothing in the charts, nothing coming out of the ATC. And while he was encountering that, he was looking for something that will help him mitigate the situation. So naturally, he of course put the seatbelt sign. He asked the crew to sit down, but there was no indication or no information in the avionics in the charts about what's upcoming. He
Hmm.
was flying. It was the early days of iPads, of course. He was flying with the iPad, and while he was looking his EFB for some kind of information, he was thinking that, and I also want to add that I hope that you're familiar with Waze. It was
Yes.
also the beginning of
Yeah.
Waze, of course, and he was
I use
thinking
it
that
quite a
if
bit.
all of us, it's
Yeah.
if it's almost impossible to go somewhere without it. We
Right.
got used to it so much.
So Waze
Um,
being the navigation app that also tells you of road hazards, tells you where the police are because I like to speed. But it's a great app as well.
it's a great app, by the way, an Israeli one. Uh,
There you go.
I'm promoting other apps here. No, I'm kidding.
There you go.
And he was inspired by that, and he thought that if all the pilot that is encountering unforeseen turbulence or degraded ride quality, if all the pilots could utilize this information not as a pirate, but as something that is automated in the background
Mhm.
and can be later on disseminated between other pilots as ways,
Right.
essentially, that could benefit everyone. So, in the early days of SkyPass, the concept of taking an information from one aircraft and providing it to another aircraft was quite innovative.
Right.
And in that sense, I think that within the aviation industry, we have established the concept of crowdsourcing.
Hmm.
Everybody is contributing to the ecosystem, but everybody is also getting back the information. So, as much data as you have in the system, as much benefit you can gain out of it. This is the idea. This is how we started. It's not everything that we do right now, but in the early days, that was the initial concept of SkyPath.
That's fascinating. I'm blown away by how Waze was, and even back then, I'm like, man, I wish there was something, with that an aviation application for it. So it's very cool that you guys, I mean, wow, that's I think the pace at which aviation is innovating is awesome to me, and I know AI has a big impact on that as well. Um, I from the first time I started using SkyPath, I thought it is the greatest thing ever because you can predict. It's not even predict. It's hey, this is what's happening to other people and within a certain time frame. So I know that that may be a problem down the road. So my biggest fear is getting any of my crew hurt or my passengers hurt. That is my biggest fear as a captain at my airline is I'm responsible, and if one person gets hurt, that's on me. So I need all the tools available to make sure that I have all the information possible to make a good decision. And the way that SkyPath kind of came up, I was like, man, how did they do this? How did so getting into that? It requires a Wi-Fi signal in order to disseminate that, right? That's how the information gets out and to from other airplanes.
So this will be the best way to utilize the service, but SkyPass is also available offline. The idea is
Oh,
that SkyPass, again, it's not only about other aircraft observation, but we are also, as you mentioned, we expanded through AI tools and we predict turbulence using machine learning tools, which is now more and more available as this technology is emerging.
mhm,
I also want to say that I think that utilizing SkyPass service, even offline, taking the information, even if you upload it while you already have Wi-Fi connectivity before you going into flying or before your departure. This is
Mhm.
something that would also create a lot of benefit to its users.
Mhm.
SkyPass is fully operative even in the background, even without Wi-Fi. So if you use it offline, you still can utilize all the information that you had before your departure. The prediction that is machine learning based is available up to 12 hours. So you
Mm.
still have up-to-date information, even if you don't regain Wi-Fi connectivity, and
That's
then you can
interesting.
use all this information that you have uploaded before you departed. Of
Mhm.
course, when you land and get and regain Wi-Fi connectivity, you'll have all the information that has been collected on the iPad downloaded back to the servers and synced with others' information as well. So, of
Wow.
course, Wi-Fi connectivity is the best, but
Mhm.
it's fully operational even without it.
Without it, it just takes a snapshot of what's going on at the time.
Hmm.
While I'm on the ground, that is my main briefing tool to our flight attendants on the ride conditions. And um, it's interesting how fast it updates. So it's updating like, as I'm briefing, it did an update, and I was like, "Whoa, okay, well we're starting to get some turbulence out there. So let's watch out for it here." So that's pretty cool. How did that technology evolve? You said originally it was more of a ways kind of pilots reporting. How did you guys make the jump from that to a predictive model?
I think that we started back in 2021. It was, mid COVID. There wasn't a lot of aircraft in the sky. When all the world snapped out of COVID and there's more and more traffic in the skies, we gained more and more data. And we sat down, we have approximately 9 billion data samples a year. That's a lot
Wow.
of information.
Yeah.
And we sat down and we thought how we can take SkyPath into the next level. How can we create a holistic tool that we
Mhm.
create benefit not only as a tactical tool for pilots, but also enhance safety for the cabin crew, enable dispatchers to monitor the flight and have this idea or this
Yeah.
sensibility of data with the flight monitoring tools that they have. We also looked at safety teams and management, and we thought, how can we provide insights
Mhm.
using all the data that we have collecting in our servers to provide them insight on enhanced safety and safer operation.
Mhm.
With the evolvement of all the AI tools, we had better accessibility to calculation. I think that one of the technology barriers that we had in the past is that it was very very difficult to take this amount of data, this data lake, and actually converge it and use it to produce insights into strategic tools or into different segments of whatever it is. In our case, it's the aviation industry,
Mhm.
and since that point, SkyPass extended its services also into the cabin with cabin connect tools, tools that are specifically designed for the cabin crew.
Really?
With
I did not know that. Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So now we
So
can
so
inform. Yes,
so meaning flight attendants can get an alert like, "Hey, there's some turbulence up ahead." Interesting.
exactly.
I did not know that. Wow.
Flight attendants, the alert is being engaged by the flight deck because we don't want to get to a point where the flight attendant has better information than the flight deck because they have better Wi-Fi connectivity. So,
That's true.
I'm sure that you'll agree with me. So
Yes.
the notification is triggered by the flight deck, but the cabin crew can get a notification through their flight app,
Mhm.
whether it's an iPhone or an iPad, and it's also connected to an Apple Watch in a way that even if it's doing something in the
Wow.
rear galley
Uh-huh.
and it's not using its iPhone or its iPad at the time, still they can get a notification through the app in the Apple Watch. So again, we're
Wow.
trying to connect all the dots to create enhanced safety,
Uh-huh.
again, as a tactical tool, but not only. Part of Skype's ecosystem, part of Skype 360 also provide notifications to the dispatch. as part of our web tool or integrated solutions.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you're aware of the fact that we are also integrating our data into different EFBs.
Yeah.
Um, so again, depends on the preference of the airline, preference of the user,
Hmm.
um, and and also we can provide the brief capabilities. The brief capabilities looks into again management tool whether a certain aircraft has had an incident. If we would like to debrief what kind of information was available, what kind of information was out there. All of this concept, I think, support the idea of evolvement into what we call now SkyPath 360, the
Hmm.
holistic approach of supporting each and every segment of the operation, whether it's a corporate operation or transport, it doesn't matter.
How about general aviation? Is there something being developed for general aviation as well?
Yes, of course. So I think that we started by data collecting. More
Mm.
aircraft in the sky, more data is available for its users. So naturally, we started with I would say, the larger fleets, most of them commercial transport, aviation, of course. But at this point, we're also reaching out to general aviation. We have our service in the website. Is very straightforward. You can enlist to the service. You don't need any human interface in the middle. You can try
Mm.
the service. You like it, you can use it. You don't like it, you can basically put it aside.
Mm.
Very straightforward. And yes, I think that there's a lot of value that we can create to general operation. I do
Mm.
want to add to that that the predictions that we produce, supported by a new service that we just launched, which is based on ADSB vertical rate, is
Oh.
basically creating global coverage in
Uh-huh.
all altitude, meaning it doesn't matter if you fly 10,000 feet, 14,000 feet, 30,000 feet, you'll have availability of the data in
Wow.
whatever altitude you're flying. So
Yeah,
this is basically,
I see a really good application for that because in Arizona we have a lot of flight training. So a lot of big flight schools that fly around here. And of course, the biggest thing as you're a young pilot, turbulence is one of the things that you want to watch out for. So I think that would be a great tool, not just for, general hobbyists that fly on the weekend, but for a training tool for flight schools as well. How did that turn out? What was it always that SkyPath was going to provide information for all pilots, or was it kind of just for, I guess, transport aviation, commercial aviation initially?
so I would say that initially we started with transport aviation because we also needed to gain confidence on the accuracy of the algorithm and the service that we are providing. Everything that we are developing, all of the data is being validated and tested by the data that is reported by an aircraft. And I'll give you an example, Ernie. Let's assume you're getting a prediction on moderate turbulence and you're putting the seatbelt sign on, and maybe even you descend or climb, I don't know. But
Mhm.
then let's assume you're going through this moderate turbulence and your aircraft is also providing the sensibility of moderate turbulence. So you encountered this predicted moderate turbulence. You
Mm.
reported it back into the system. This is how we can validate the prediction. So it's basically
Yeah.
a closed loop. You're getting a prediction, you're going through that, you put the seatbelt sign on, you tell the cabin crew to sit down, and then you're experiencing moderate turbulence. So
Mm.
again, I don't want you to experience that, but in terms of research and development and the accuracy of the technology, we can validate that the prediction is accurate. When we understood that our prediction is pretty much accurate, we spread it out to other aircraft, GA, BA, and currently in our website we have a kind of a very very direct manner to license to the service, try the
Mm.
service. So it's very, very, very simple, very straightforward.
Yeah. The prediction model on there is very accurate, I have to say. So it's interesting to learn that how you guys are sharpening the blade, I call it, right? You have a prediction model. you validate the model, it learns a little bit more. So I'm guessing as time moves on, you guys started the company basically in 2021. It's 2025. This is only 4 years, and look at the leaps and bounds that has grown. What do you see in the next 5 years with the company on some of the innovations that you guys are looking at?
So one of the things that we, first of all, I have to say that you know, we're the gold standards of right quality mitigation, and we're
Mm,
trying to be professionals in that. I don't um, presume, maybe, but I don't presume we're going to do anything that is really out of scope of looking at right quality. And in that sense, we're also looking at other, I would say, phenomena that influence right quality, other technology that can enhance the service that we are providing. Again, relying pretty much on the emerging trend of AI. There's a lot of things we can do with that. I think that aviation being a safe and a very and an industry that eventually takes people from one place to the other
mm,
is more, and I appreciate it, more careful in how it embrace new technologies.
mhm,
But what we are seeing is a lot of amazing things around artificial intelligence. Part of it is even new technologies that are looking at all the meteorological aspects in terms of AI analysis of weather phenomena, radar imagery analysis, deep learning. We are very intrigued by
yeah.
this evolvement of the technology, and we're trying to combine whatever we can to increase the accuracy of what we're doing, and provide service to more and more aspects of the aviation. We're aviation enthusiasts, so I don't think we'll go into, I don't know, ground services,
Yeah.
but I'm planning exciting things around expansion in
Mhm.
aviation in particular.
So I know business aviation has been a big part of your growth plans as well. How do you find the adoption of business aviation? Are people kind of jumping on board? Because I know more and more airlines are jumping on board.
True. I think that you know in transport aviation, we are very much invest in safety. We want to provide people with safer service, confident. In business aviation, there's a lot also around the experience in flight. At the end, people are coming and they want to have a better experience. They want to enjoy whatever they are having. So yes, we see an increased adoption of this technology, and I would like to give you an example without specifying a specific
Mhm.
service. One of our business aviation customers told us that they were flying passengers to I think it was last year's Super Bowl.
Mhm.
There's a lot of going on in business aviation towards the
Right.
Super Bowls, a lot of flights, and they told us that their passengers have called them and asked them whether the pilots that are taking them to the Super Bowl, I think it was Vegas back then or something like this,
Mhm.
are using SkyPath service because it
Really?
provided them more confidence in the safety and the experience that they are going to have during flight. And they specifically asked for SkyPass to be used in their flight. So this is just one example, but yes, we see more and more traction in business aviation and GA as well. It's a new
Wow.
territory relatively for us.
Yeah.
Just best,
Interesting.
I would say, year and a half, something like that.
There's a lot of people out there that are afraid of flying, and most of it stems from turbulence. Um, I, I get a lot of people that come up, I shouldn't say a lot, but I get people that come up from time to time, poke their head in the cockpit and say, hey, I just wanted to say hi to the pilots because I'm a nervous flyer. Is it going to be turbulent? And, with SkyPath, I'm able to tell them what kind of rides we're going to get. Is there a version that will come out geared specifically to passengers?
So first of all, I have numbers to support your claim. That's about
Oh,
40% of all passengers are never suppliers. That's the exact. This is the research. It's not mine.
wow. I did not know that.
40%.
That's a lot.
Unbelievable, right?
Right.
That's like
Nearly half.
nearly half.
Wow.
Um, in that sense, passengers app is definitely on the horizon. I
Mhm.
think that what we're trying to do now, mostly for the airlines, less for corporate, we're trying to provide support to passengers through the airlines app. So we do have, as part of our SkyPass 360 new concept and new release, we do have service where we can integrate the data into airline applications, airline entertainment system,
Wow.
to provide more accessibility or
Mhm.
knowledge of what we are providing to passengers. Imagine yourself that um, so you're flying, you're preparing for a flight, of course, as the pilot, and while your passengers is sitting down on their chairs, they're getting notification. This is going to be a smooth flight,
Mhm.
or this is going to be a smooth flight, maybe occasional bumpy,
Mhm.
but the flight crew is on top of that, and they're going to tell you when it's about to happen, and they're going to take care of you. That's a complete different experience to those who are nervous flyers, and this is what we are looking at in SkyPass 360, not only to support the airline operation but also their customers in the service that we are providing.
Yeah, that's great. I think a lot of the root cause is the fear of the unknown, right? In flying. So giving that little bit of information to them, I think is but 40%. I'm still kind of
For
blown away by that. Wow. Um
at least that's the
Interesting.
numbers that we are looking at.
Yeah, and I'm sure you
We look
look at
deeply into those statistics, of
yeah,
course.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Um so you mentioned kind of the future, maybe how much has AI played in the development of SkyPath?
So in the last couple of years, more we get more and more portion of AI into what we are doing. But, you know, AI is a general term. I want to call it machine learning tools because the machine learning tools and models that we have, which is, they it's stacked under AI in a sense, but it's not the ChatGPT that we are all talking about.
Yeah,
Those, that's, there's a lot of branches into AI,
right.
and what we are doing is more of advanced tools to analyze enormous amount of data as part of what we're doing currently. And I'll give you an example in SkyPass 360 to provide instant information. And you mentioned that SkyPass is being updated so quickly. We're
Mm.
updating our data every minute. I don't know if you knew that, but
Every minute? I did not
every
know that.
minute, if you have Wi-Fi connectivity, we're
Wow.
updating the data. In order to support that with the enormous amount of data that we have to use advanced tools, to take all this data into account, take
Mhm.
out what is important, what is influencing your flight on the next, I would say, hour or 2 hours, because this is the data portion that you need. You don't want to see all the data that is out there. You don't want to see bits and bytes of data and start to analyze them while you're preparing to a flight or briefing the team. What you want is a simple and straightforward information on what you're about to encounter in the next hour, for example. I'll
Mhm.
give you this information, you'll know what you need to do with it. And this is the idea on using AI to
Mhm.
observe all the data that we are getting. And I wanted to give you an example. As part of SkyPass 360 launch, we are taking ADS-B vertical rate from all the aircraft that is out there. We have a proprietary algorithm that takes this data and converts it into turbulence. So we're basically providing back as part of, we call it SkyPass one layer.
Mhm.
It's a data set that takes SkyPass observation, SkyPass forecast, SkyPass ADS-B, PyReps, and other methodological parameters take it all into account, apply those AI or machine learning tools, and
Yeah.
provide you, the pilot, with the data that you need right now. And you don't care whether this data is coming from SkyPath observation, the
Hmm.
ADSB, the forecast. You just need the data because you want to act upon the data that you are getting. And this
Right.
is the idea. So
That is
this is how we
fascinating.
use those tools.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. The part that you talked about where you're essentially distilling it down to what we need for my particular flight. You could tell that pilots have designed this, because a lot of times, not bashing engineers, but engineers will engineer something and just give you all this information that you don't necessarily need right away. So that's very interesting part. I did not know that what I see on my SkyPath app is not all the data, but only the data that I think is, you know, probably the most important for my leg of that journey.
I think that the challenge that we have, again, you know, looking at trying to look at it from the pilot eyes, is
Mhm.
how to prioritize the data on one hand, but also give you control on the data on the other hand.
Mhm.
Because if I'll tell you that you're not seeing all the data, I don't know what kind of pilot are you, but but some of them will tell us, but I want to see it all. I want to make the decision what is important to me and what's not. So, the way it's designed is that we will prioritize the data for you. But if you wish to dive deeper into whatever you're seeing and explore everything that's out there, we'll still try to provide you with that without cluttering whatever you're doing.
Mhm.
And this is the challenge that our amazing product team is trying to meet and confront. And you'll be the judge of how well they did it. And call me and
Mhm.
let me know.
No, I
But this
think
is
it.
the idea.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I do get granular with the data sometimes when there's, it's rare, but when there's predictions or instances of severe turbulence, I have manipulated some of the tools that you have on there to try to figure out, okay, here it is, typically by Denver, by the Rockies. Okay, but you mentioned that dispatchers use that information too to route airplanes. So I see the application there. I know we use it. I know business aviation can greatly benefit from that because when you're only doing one flight from say Scottsdale up to Seattle, and you're doing that once, airlines do it multiple times a day. So getting that same data, that same feed to understand what that ride quality is going to be, to a very high net worth individual in the back is probably very important, keeping everybody safe, regardless of who's in the back. So
Yes. And
I
and
had a thought
yes.
as far as, you were a helicopter pilot. Is there any application? I have not really flown in helicopter. I flew in the back, prior to going to pilot training. But is there any application to helicopter pilots on this application?
So again, the application is of course available, and it really depends whether we're flying VFR or IFR. But I think that there's not a lot of difference, encountering turbulence in more, I would say, low altitudes, such as helicopters are flying in GA, for example. At the end,
Hmm.
turbulence is more of a moderate and above. It's something that is not that nice to encounter, whether you're flying helicopters or I don't know, a 172 or Citation 7 or 78.
Hmm.
It depends on the severity and maybe also the time frame that you're encountering it.
Hmm.
And I don't know if all helicopter pilots will find that beneficial,
Hmm.
but whatever we are doing is open for all. Of course, the main focus, the main idea that we had in mind is business aviation, of course, general aviation, and airlines transport aviation. Essentially, um, I I would use it in a helicopter
Yeah.
any day.
Yeah. It'd be good for a pre-mission plan, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to add, Ernie, you mentioned dispatchers, and we started this discussion by talking about offline operation.
Hmm.
So one of the concerns of I would say not maybe the US based, but there's a lot of global fleets that are using SkyPass. One of the concerns are those portions of the fleets that are not sometimes gaining Wi-Fi connectivities, or sometimes above the oceans, depends. Sometimes it's very costly.
Hmm.
And what we're doing in the new release in SkyPass 360 is providing dispatchers with the ability to get notifications in parallel to the pilot. So if the pilot doesn't have Wi-Fi connectivity and doesn't have the most updated information in that sense, because he can't get an update within a minute, the
Hmm.
dispatch still have the most updated information, of course, being on the ground and monitoring the flight.
Hmm.
And he also have the ability to forward this notification
Yeah.
via ACARS, for example, on a very seamless and simple integration that is also designed within the system. So that probably mitigate and solve. We talked about dispersed operation with SkyPass.
Hmm.
That solves most of the concerns around not having Wi-Fi connectivity on board and having the most updated information. So if you don't have it, you can gain the notification through ACARS. Again, I believe that it's more accurate than just having a PIREP from the ATC or something like that.
Which is what we get right now from our dispatchers. We do get PIREPs via ACARS. So having yeah, that would be a lot more accurate information going out. So that's I didn't know that as well. Learning a lot
There's,
today
there's a
about
lot of there's a lot of new things
there's a lot of new things.
in our
Yeah.
new SkyPass, just launching as we
Uh,
speak. So yes,
does
this is available.
so SkyPath is a technology company.
Yes.
And I always like to ask, does this company utilize any of its own aircraft uh, in its company?
No, not necessarily, but no, but maybe in the future.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I'm always curious about that because, you know, aviation.
Yes. Of course, but we are all deeply invested into it. And as I
Hmm.
told you, I think that there's not a single engineer in the
Hmm.
company that is not aviation enthusiast, from whoever is designing the product to those pilots that are in, customer support.
Hmm.
We have people in
How,
customer support that are also pilots. So,
wow, that's
top to bottom, bottom to top, whatever you prefer.
yeah. How big is the company? How many does it employ?
So, as you know, we're a global company. There's I would say a few dozens of employees. Part of them are located in Israel. Part of them are located in the US mostly, because there's a
Hmm.
lot of US customers.
Hmm.
We have sales and operation also North US, Canada. So, spread
Hmm.
around.
And it is a global, I mean, we talked about it, it's global coverage. Do you
Yes.
see a lot of adoption, say, in, other parts of the world with this?
Yes, we started with the US market because we
Hmm.
found it as more. Again, we looked at fleet sizes,
Yeah.
and we looked for coverage and traction. And, it's maybe not the biggest if you're looking at China, but probably the
Hmm.
biggest market in the world for aviation.
Hmm.
Recently, we've been expanding to APAC, which is
Oh.
very, very important, because there's a lot of, we see more and more turbulence and things that can degrade ride quality in APAC. So there's more and more airline in APAC and the East that are using this technology.
Hmm.
Um, Also, South America, we're looking at Europe
Hmm.
also, which is getting into the service, and this is pretty much. I think that there's a lot of concern around APEC in terms of increasing turbulence. You've said Denver; they probably had, if I don't know how many,
Yeah.
geographic locations that they know they're about to encounter turbulence.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's more becoming more and more important in this part of the world.
Yeah, it's funny. Whenever I have a route that takes me over Denver or over the Rockies, I always bring that up. I bring up, okay, we're going over the Rockies today. SkyPath says pretty good ride, so we'll just keep it by ear and listen up to other traffic reports going
I'll
over.
tell you a
But
secret.
what's that?
Whenever I need to do, I'll tell you a secret. Just between you and me.
Yes.
Uh, whenever we need to demonstrate, whenever I need to demonstrate our service, I always zoom in, above Denver because that's the best place
It is.
to
Yeah.
showcase whatever we
Yeah.
are doing. So yes, I'm with you about it.
Yeah. Well, it's just speaking from someone who flies, primarily in the US, I do know Denver is a big spot. Sometimes going into Palm Springs in California, and
Yes.
basically anywhere near mountains and the winds start to get high, it starts to get a little challenging. So
So,
Reno.
this is, we know, you
Hmm.
know because you fly, we know because this is what we do, but all of this is sensing. What we are trying to do here is taking all the exactly what we're talking about and validate it with science. So you say, I know that there's turbulence above Denver in, I don't know, February at 6 o'clock every day. I know there's turbulence there. I know that there's turbulence in Palm Springs or in certain time of day in I don't know, JFK, let's say.
Hmm.
What we're trying to do now with all the data that we have in those AI tools is to create those insights going forward. So let's say that you know that above Denver there's turbulence in 6 p.m. and you're landing there. You'll probably tell the flight attendants to take their seat early because
Hmm.
even if you're not yet descending into this altitude where they need to take their seat because you know that there's a risk element
Right.
landing in
Yep.
Denver. What we're trying to do is, you know, uh, pour some science into it and tell you, listen, we're looking at the data. We analyze the data, 4 years of data. And I can tell you that in February, in 6 p.m. above Denver, you're most likely to encounter, but not only Denver, of course, this is also
Right.
the only an example, you're most likely to encounter severe air turbulence. So I'll advise you to uh, to send them to their seat, let's say in 20,000 feet and not necessarily in 10,000 feet. And in
Hmm.
that sense, I can provide you scientific tools that support your decision in a way, that
Hmm.
we have proof, we have validation to whatever you feel. Now it's not only a feeling. Now it's
Right.
validated by science, by
Hmm.
technology. So this is probably the next phase. This is what we are doing right now.
So that's still in development
Um, no, it's probably in production. In the next few months. It's not.
in the next few
It's
months.
already
Wow.
in production. Yeah.
Wow. So constantly iterating. That's great. Well, again, I'm a big fan of the company and I'm a big fan of what you guys are doing because I do really believe that it makes my job easier as a captain in ensuring my crew and my passengers are safe. So I am definitely keeping my eye on your company to see what kind of advancements happen in the future because I know it's rapidly advancing. Is there anything you wanted to leave our audience with? Just that kind of as a final note.
Yes. We provide direct access to everyone in the company through the application or through our website. And the most beneficial features that we added to our service was not our ideas, were the ideas of pilots that were using the system and had, amazing ideas about how we can increase safety and support safety teams and enhance whatever we are doing. So I think that my message to the audience that are listening to us that if you use our system and you have an amazing idea for a new feature, something that can enhance whatever we are providing back,
Mhm.
please use the feedback feature, reach out to the website and let us know. We're taking everything into the account and you may see it in the next version that we are going to release.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. Well, that is the mark of a good company is listening to your consumer. So that's awesome. Maya, I appreciate the time you spent with us today. I know it's with the time change, It's late in the evening for you. It's early in the morning for us. But I appreciate you staying late and talking to our audience and being on our podcast.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed the time that we had together.
All right. Well, that's it, Maya from SkyPath. If you haven't received that or gotten onto the software yet, it's an app downloadable. Go to your app store and download it. The next time you go flying, it will blow your mind. I promise.
Never going back. Going up, going up, going up, going up, going up, going up. Get it that I'm